Nope, leave it alone. Nope, leave it alone. Nope, said leave it alone. Said leave it alone.
Alright, looks like traffic is starting to clear up. So as we say here in Harambe, Twende, which means let's go. So, Jumbo, everybody, hi. My name is Kristen. Driving us today is Anthony. We're going to be your safari guides for this journey out through the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. We're about to go get a glimpse of Africa, including some of the most amazing animals. And it looks like we've got clearance right into the reserve, so we're going to get started right away. We're going to begin by heading deep into the Little Aturi Forest. Now, forests like this one are home to many different types of animals. Their natural colorings and markings can blend them in really well. So we've got to keep a sharp eye out. More than once have been just a few yards away from an animal before we noticed it hiding in the bushes. Like the animal hiding out to the right. Up on the hill in between the bushes, there's an okapi. Okapi are often mistaken for relatives of the zebra because of the stripy legs. They're actually the only living relative of the giraffe. It's because of the shape of their heads. The boys even have ossicons, which are those false horns that all the giraffe have. And all of the okapi have long, black, prehensile tongues. Again, just like the giraffe. This is bringing us around to one of the local watering holes. This is a good gathering spot for animals. It's a great chance to see some of the rare ones, like the okapi we saw. There's also something kind of interesting up on top of the hill to the right. You see that pile of sticks on top of the bush? That is a giant nest. That nest was built by some very large birds that are actually coming up. You're going to see them on the left-hand side of the road, just to the right of the water once we turn the corner. These are saddle-billed stork. Now, if you look closely, you're going to notice they're sitting on the equivalent of their knees. When they stand upright fully, they stand about 5 feet tall. They have a wingspan almost 9 feet wide. That's almost as wide as this truck. Wow. They are massive. Now, there's another massive animal that unfortunately you're not really going to get a view of. Towards the front left of the truck, near the rock wall, you might see what looks like a rock. It's a rhino. I know it's not a great view. We're going to keep going. We'll get some views of some easier animals coming up. There's some beautiful views coming up on the left of some antelope. On top of the hill, the orange-colored one is a bongo, also known as the ghosts of the forest. They love to stay hidden away. And in the clearing, in the sunny spot, those light tan antelope are greater kudu. A kudu are one of the taller African antelope. They stand about 5 feet tall at the shoulder. We're seeing girls. The boys grow horns up to 71 inches in length. That's almost 6 feet long. It makes them really noticeable. But you might also notice that we are headed out towards a different area of the reserve. We're headed out to the Safi River next, which is my favorite spot to look for hippos, and today we're in luck. There's a hippopotamus on the riverbank coming up on the right. Now, near the hippo, there's also these big gray-white birds. Those are pink-backed pelicans. They get the name because during mating season, their back turns a light pink color. I know it's the hippo that's much more exciting, so Anthony's going to line us up for a beautiful view.
You see it?
A little bit further.
See the hippo right there?
A little bit further. Right about there is going to be perfect. Thank you so much, sir. That hippo out of the water is really rare during the daytime. They typically don't climb out till nighttime when it's a little bit cooler to eat food. Each hippo will eat up to 100 pounds of grass each night. They are willing to walk about 6 miles down the riverbank and about 2 miles inland each night to get all the food they're looking for. And we're going to keep an eye on the waters out to the left because you never know, maybe we'll find some more hippos. Typically they'll spend their day in and around the water. But I'm also a little bit more worried about the next animal. Anthony's about to drive us over a really rickety bridge. And as we drive over this really rickety bridge, the researchers in the area have seen Nile crocodile out here. While there are more hippos out there, on the riverbank out to the left, there are also Nile crocodile. These predators have incredibly strong jaws. They will even go after prey larger than themselves, like zebra and wildebeest. By larger, I do mean bigger or taller, not necessarily longer, because from the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail, those crocodile average about 16 feet long. That's about as long as giraffes get tall. Wow. So we are headed away from those rivers, out towards a completely different ecosystem with completely different animals. We're going to start making our way out towards the savannah next. And speaking of different, there is a view of a different kind of tree coming up on the right. It's known as the baobab. It's also known as the upside down tree, so you're going to know which one it is. It's the one here on the right that kind of looks like it's got its roots sticking up in the air. They're not really roots. They are branches. Baobabs go leafless about 9 months out of the year to conserve water. We should find a few more of them out in the savannah, so we're going to keep driving around. And as we drive around this corner, our first view of the savannah, the Serengeti grasslands. These grasslands stretch for miles across East Africa. They're home to millions of migrating animals every year, making it kind of like their version of a superhighway. This is the Africa we're working so hard to conserve. Already you're starting to see some animals. I know the giraffe out to the right are really exciting. We're going to loop around and get a lot closer, so I'm going to talk about them later. Feel free to keep looking at them. I know giraffe are cool. Coming up on the left, we're at one of the edges of the reserve. Now you might start to see some fencing in between the tall bushes. I'm still going to keep an eye out past the fencing. We had been hearing rumors of African painted dogs roaming around near the den that's coming up on the left. They're a little harder to find because of their coloring. They're black, white, kind of an orangey brown color mixed together. But if you look towards the front left of the truck to the right of the cave, I see the colors. These dogs typically hunt during the early mornings and the late afternoons. The rising and setting sun makes them almost completely disappear. Much easier to see would be the zebra coming up on the left. Past the zebra, those are sable antelope on the hill. Those are all girls. Boys' horns get a little longer. The boys also darken as they age. But beautiful views of the zebra. These are Hartman's mountain zebra. Different types of zebra would have different types of stripes. No two individuals are exactly the same. They're each unique in their pattern. Like people have their own unique fingerprints. It's how you could learn to tell them all apart from one another if you get to know them really, really well. Technically, that's true for all patterned animals. If an animal has spots like the giraffe out in the distance, stripes like the zebra, or swirls like the painted dogs, they are each unique. I just think it's really cool with the zebra because they learn that they're unique from birth. A baby zebra can pick its own mother out of a group of hundreds of others just based off of the stripes. But this is bringing us much closer to the giraffe. These happen to be Maasai giraffe. They get the rougher edges to their spots. They also tend to be a little bit taller than other types, but that is a tendency. Just like people, giraffe have height ranges. At full growth, they'll stand anywhere between 14 to 20 feet tall. They don't all get to be 20 feet tall. They do start out pretty big. Baby giraffe, when they're born, would stand about 6 feet tall, meaning they can look into the eyes of any full-grown adult human standing in the grasses next to them from birth. Wow. I know height gets a little skewed from the truck. To show you how tall the animals we're looking at today really are, keep in mind that the armrests at the side of our truck are just over 6 feet off the ground. Oh, wow. We're very high up in the air today. With beautiful views of giraffe coming up on both sides of the road. Out to the right on top of the hill, the tiny light tan antelope are full-grown springbok. They only stand about 3 feet tall. Now, that's as big as they get. But those tiny antelope can jump 6 feet in the air repeatedly when frightened or excited. They literally spring from place to place. It's kind of fun. They can also jump 10 to 11.5 feet forward in a single bound. It's impressive, because when they jump, all 4 of their little legs come off the ground at the same time. I know, it's the giraffe on both sides of the road that are probably still more exciting. But giraffe are going to spend most of the day chewing on stuff. They'll spend between 16 and 20 hours a day eating or chewing. But this is going to bring us out towards Monkey Point next. Now, Monkey Point is coming up on the left. Gets its name for a group of mandrills. that have taken up residence at the abandoned camp. Incredibly social amongst themselves, mandrills are very, very shy to outsiders like us. I would not blame you if instead of looking for monkeys hiding out to the left, you just want to look at the adult male elephant walking around to the right. He is a lot larger. He is a lot easier to see.
There's the elephant. There's the elephant.
I want both. That is so beautiful.
Now, if you're paying attention, you notice I called that elephant an adult male. We said that for a couple of reasons. Biggest reason is I don't see any other elephants in the area. Adult male elephants, like the one to the right, are pretty much the only ones that walk off on their own like this. Females stay in herds with the young ones, and as the young boys start to get older, they start to wander further and further away from their family group until eventually they won't ever go back.
Oh.
Once they reach adulthood, any boys that are left in the family groups will start to get pushed out of the family groups to either go off on their own like the one we saw, or they'll join a bachelor group. Boys just don't tend to stay together. They meet up, then they break off, go on their own again. It's the girls that tend to form the larger herds. They continue to stay near their moms as they raise families of their own. And as much fun as the one elephant was, I'd like to try to find a herd. So we're going to keep heading deeper into elephant country to see what else we can catch up with. Now, unfortunately, biggest threats to elephants are still people. They are still being hunted for their ivory tusks. They also face habitat loss due to mining going on out in the Congo. The miners are looking for an ore called coltan. It's used in electronics like cell phones, laptops, tablets, things like that. So if you want to help out elephants and other animals that live in the Congo, like the mandrills, please feel free to recycle electronics when you're finished with them. That's going to reduce the need for the ore, and it helps the animals keep their habitat. And out to the left, I think we found the outskirts of a herd of elephants. Anthony's going to loop us around the hill so that we can get a few easier views on the other side. It looks like there might be a few by the local watering hole, so I think we'll head around there. Just based off of the size of the herd, I think we found a family group. I think we found the girls with the young ones. The girls are also a little bit smaller than the boys.
No, we're going to have to come back.
The smaller is relative when it comes to elephants. Girls are usually weigh up to about 8,000 pounds at their full growth. Fully grown adult males can weigh up to 13,000. But we're going to get some beautiful views just across the water from us on the left. Now, as we get closer, I want you to look at the elephant ears. You're going to see what looks like lots of wrinkles in their ears. Those wrinkles are actually blood vessels. And that's really useful on the hot days. Because on the hot days, you'll see the elephants flapping their ears a lot. That pushes wind across the blood vessels. It'll decrease their body temperature up to 15 degrees. Some of the really hot African days, I wish I could do that. But there's also a flamboyance coming up on the left. It's a group of flamingos. These are greater flamingos, the largest and the lightest pink of the flamingo species. They don't actually start out pink. Baby flamingos are gray fluff balls. They turn pink as they get older. If you're looking out to the left, all the way to the left-hand side of the island in the back, you see the couple of gray ones? Yeah, they're younger than the rest. They will eventually turn pink. It just takes about 2 years to get the full coloring all the way through their system. So based off the size and color, these ones are probably somewhere between a year and a half old. We are going to keep heading deeper into the savannah, and we are still having fabulous luck. Towards the front right corner of the truck, coming up on the left, out in the distance, these are white rhino. Much, much larger than other types of rhino. These animals weigh between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds. A group of them is known as a crash. That's a crash of white rhino. But as we loop around, you're going to notice I keep calling these rhino white rhino. They are not actually the color white. Kind of a funny story. Under the mud, black rhino and white rhino are pretty much the same color. These animals got their name from a miscommunication. Native Dutch settlers in Africa called them wide. Wide being the Afrikaans word for wide. They were talking about the wide square mouths. English settlers came in, heard them saying white, thought they were saying white, and the name stuck.
Yeah, I know. Look at them.
These from Safari 29.
What the heck is that?
I really want to do it.
Yeah, look, here comes an ostrich too.
Also coming up on the left, you're going to see an ostrich walking around. Now, ostrich are birds. The lovely lady out here, she's got wings, she'll lay eggs, she will not fly. Ostrich run. She can reach about 40 miles an hour. It's pretty quick. Not as fast as the other animal looking at her. Out to the left, all the way to the left-hand side of the hill, laying in the sun, that is a cheetah. There's another one more towards the front left of the truck, walking around up on top of the hill. And a third almost straight out to the left. The cheetah have been causing a lot of trouble in Namibia hunting livestock. The farmers out there had been hunting the cheetah to protect their livestock. Not a good solution. Cheetah are endangered. So our reserve supports training programs that train really large dogs called Anatolian Shepherds and Kangal dogs. The dogs are huge. They scare the cheetah away from the livestock without endangering the cats, saving their lives. I think it's kind of neat, the dogs saving the cats out there.
That's awesome.
Now, talking about large cats, it's not a good view yet. Bear with us, we're going to loop around the hill. But out to the left, you might see an ear sticking up. The lion's relaxing on the hill. We're going to loop around to try to get a view of the face on the other side of the hill as he's moving. Now, as we loop around for lions, coming up on the right, these are waterbuck up on top of the hill. They tend not to migrate too very far. They find a nice aquatic area, a place with lots and lots of water. They just kind of hang out, thus the name waterbuck. Let's see if we can find that better view of the lion. Of course, now that he's moved, it's going to be interesting. Oh my goodness. Where did he lie down? Now, they do spend, oh, there they are, in between the trees. So we're going to move forward just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. He's by the tree that's far to the left, laying down. You can see the tip of the tail moving. You can tell it's the boy because he's got the extra hair around his head, the lion's mane. The girls don't have that. We can also tell that this is a younger male because his mane looks kind of scraggly. I'd equate that to a teenager growing his first beard. It will get much thicker and much darker as he gets older. It's how you know the age of the lion is the dominance and the pride. That's how you know who's in charge of the group. Oh, but there's another group coming up on the left. It's a group of warthogs. Now, if they were feeling threatened, they'd back into one of the burrows below them with their tusks facing outwards. Never ever disturb a warthog that has backed itself into a burrow. Their tusks are very, very sharp. They are not afraid to use them. They are also quite quick. They can reach about 35 miles per hour. They just don't hold their top speed for very long. A few hundred yards makes them mostly sprinters. Now, I am also going to bring our minds back to the ostrich we saw earlier. If you had been paying attention when I was talking about the ostrich, you may have noticed I kept saying she and her. We know that all the ostrich on the reserve are female, not just because of the leftover eggs in the grasses out to the right. It's actually the color of the feathers that gives it away.
I see them.
Gray feathers means they're girls. Boys would be much darker, pretty much black in color, which makes it pretty easy to tell the difference. But just like with chickens, even without boys, the ostrich is still gonna lay eggs. They're just not gonna hatch. The biggest difference between chicken eggs and ostrich eggs is the size. One ostrich egg weighs about 3 pounds. That is roughly the equivalent of 24 chicken eggs. But this brings us out to the warden's outpost. And recently, the warden has been raising Nigerian dwarf goats. Now, that's great for the reserve for a couple of reasons. First of all, Nigerian dwarf goats, like the one sitting up on top of the roof out to the left, they're kind of adorable. Now, secondly, because of their smaller size, they take up less space. They cost less to raise than their larger cousins. But they still provide a very valuable sweet goat milk that can either be drunk or sold for added income. And they tend to eat a lot of things that other animals won't, like brambles, weeds, and roughage. Clears out the area, making it easier for other animals to find the food they're looking for. I think it's really cool when it's the humans and animals living together and working together to improve the environment around them. It's really what a lot of the conservation efforts are striving for. Now, I talked about some of the programs that our reserve has been involved in. I talked about coltan mining, talked about cheetahs and dogs saving their lives out of Namibia. There's a lot more programs. If you're interested in more information, please stop by one of the local merchandise locations. Not only can they get you more information, they can also let you know how you can help out with those programs too. But one of the biggest ways that we can help the animals we love is by helping others learn to love them too. So hopefully the animals out here were able to inspire you. And if you learned something new, spread it around. Getting to share knowledge and excitement about the animals is something very special that we can all share together. Now, unfortunately, it is starting to sound like we are getting pretty close to the village. Well, I'm not going to say goodbye. I found goodbyes are much too sad. They are far too final. Instead, I am going to wish you all koharini. Koharini is a Swahili phrase. It means? Well, it means goodbye, but it sounds a lot nicer. So we like to say koharini. And before I let you go, for any wilderness explorers, today you've all been riding aboard the Simba 1. That's Simba, the Swahili word for lion. S-I-M-B-A and the number 1. Once again, my name's Kristen. Your driver's been Anthony. It's been our absolute pleasure driving you all around.